So welcome everybody to episode 16 in our What If interview series, where we discuss and share knowledge on customer experience, digital transformation, and how to better serve customers via digital channels. So for those who haven't joined us before, my name is Tracy Greer and I'm the head of marketing for Mando. We're a digital agency committed to simplifying digital experiences for everyone. So we work specifically within the regulated industry sector, with companies like utilities and financial services, focusing on helping your customers to do those tasks that they don't really want to do. So I'm pretty sure we don't all wake up on a Saturday morning super excited about paying our water bill or having to submit an insurance claim. We make these experiences easier, giving customers time back to do the more exciting things. So today our title is What If Trust in Your Brand Had to Be Earned? And we welcome our guest, experienced Chief Marketing Officer, Vanessa Ashworth. Vanessa is able to draw on her 20 plus years of experience at the coalface of marketing strategy and leadership, offering some pragmatic solutions to today's discussion. Just before we get started with Vanessa, just to let you all know, we've got my Mando colleague Sarah on the call with us too. So Sarah will be helping with logistics and monitoring the chat. So if you've got any questions as we go through the interview or any comments that you'd like to share, just be sure to post them in the relevant windows, and then Sarah can pose those questions to Vanessa at the end of the discussion. We'll be chatting for around 20-25 minutes, and then we'll move on to any questions or comments after that. So I just want to welcome you to What If, Vanessa. If you can just introduce yourself, just tell us a little bit more about your background and what it is that you do.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm Vanessa. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Fulfillment Crowd. We are an international provider of fulfillment services to e-commerce SMEs. And it's my job to make our message visible and compelling. I'm passionate about the customer and the customer journey and the customer experience. And I have the enviable job of being responsible for both marketing and sales. So it's all about demand generation, all about the brand and building our brand and making us visible and making sure that only the highest quality prospects get through to the sales team. So I've been with Fulfillment Crowd just a few months now. And before that, I was the Vice President of Marketing for a global equipment manufacturer in the metals industry. So very different to what I do now.
Very different, very contrasting roles there. That's great, thank you, Vanessa. So we'll move on to today's topic area. So I'm just going to start by sharing a few stats around today's issue of trust. So we know that 75% of customers express concern for how organisations collect and use their personal data, and I think that's probably no surprise. And then 80% of marketers will abandon their personalisation efforts by 2025 due to lack of return on investment and the perils of customer data management, or both. So we know that trust, particularly when it comes to handing over customer data, is a huge issue that all organisations are facing, and we've predicted it as such as one of our key trends for 2021. So just to get us started, what would be your summary of the issue of trust, Vanessa, before we drill down into some further detail?
Well, of course, trust is formed by delivering on promises. But now most of that customer journey takes place online, from the establishment of a need to the evaluation of options through to the resolution of concerns and then the decision, which often is a transaction or it's a commitment. And then with so many channels and so many sites and so many offers, so many messages, how does the customer find the truth? And then I think we've probably all been burnt at some point by an unscrupulous site. Or sometimes we might have just, we've been sold this idea that the company just couldn't deliver on. So marketers, on the issue of trust, marketers have really got the challenge to make sure that their sites stand out from the rest, stand up to scrutiny, so that you do believe that they're genuine, but also present a genuine offer that the company can absolutely deliver.
Absolutely, I think that's a brilliant summary there, thank you. So just to talk about a concept that you've mentioned before, and we mentioned in the write-up to this session, a concept to help build trust in a brand. So the know me, like me, trust me kind of model. And I know it's something that you wholeheartedly believe in, and you know, work it into your plans to create trust in all the brands that you touch. So can you just give us an outline of those stages before we look at them in detail?
Yeah, sure. So, so yeah, it's all about, as I said, being visible and being compelling. And know me is the very first stage. It's that visibility. So it's making sure that your ideal customers know that you exist. But it's also about knowing who you are and knowing who those ideal customers are. The second stage is like me, and this is where you want your ideal customer to like you, to understand what it is you do. You want to have a message that resonates with them, and you've got to give them a customer experience that they expect. So that's like me, which leads then to trust. And trust, as I said, is about delivering on promises, but here it's about being so compelling that the customer feels there's an emotional connection or an affinity, and they believe that you could be the right partner, or your product is the right product for them. So it's that it's a stronger compulsion.
That's brilliant, thank you. So it's all about, like you say, it's all about kind of building that emotional relationship and connection between the customer and the organization. That's great, thank you. So how does, looking at each of those in turn, how does the marketeer form an underlying basis for trust?
Okay,
if you can just expand on those a bit more.
Yeah, so we start with like me, which is about visibility. Obviously, we can buy visibility, can't we? We can buy ads, and if you think about where your ideal customers are today, they're online, and so they're looking on search engines, or they might be on social channels. So we can buy visibility. We can buy ads to get in front of them, but obviously, when they're bought, that trust threshold is quite low. People still use them, and they absolutely work, but you've got to work harder then when they come to your site to build that trust. But so I think what customers are looking for is organic content, really. So if you think about a search engine, you might scroll past those ads, and then the next part of the Google search, for example, is that educational part. It's the Wikipedia type what if, how to. And companies can really, they can get a place there by creating educational info, which is not salesy, because Google likes that and it ranks that. So that could be YouTube videos, it could be what is pages, what is fulfillment, that kind of thing. And then the organic trust part, again, is just by having great content. So the organic, the rest of the page. So marketers can work at getting onto page one. And if you are on page one, that's earned, and Google has ranked you for a reason. And so that builds trust. And then being visible on search engine, on social media, also helps trust. Because if you're visible in many places, so on search engines, on YouTube, and on other social media, you look more genuine. So that's know me. Like me is about being compelling, getting the prospects to like you. So it's knowing yourself, knowing your brand, knowing who your customer is, and making sure that your message fits. And I think here, to gain trust, you've got to stand out from artificial intelligence and stand out from all the other competitors. If you look different, if you look genuine, you'll cause people to look a bit closer. So I think you look more trustworthy. So I think stand out and be different is the key here. Surprise and delight to build that emotional connection. Yeah. And I think as well, to be liked these days, you've got to make that customer experience really easy and grit-free, so you've got to give the information that the customer needs in a really kind of smooth order and really easy. Don't make them fight for it and search for it or plow through fields and fields of text. I think our patience levels I think we're online all the time, and we're ready to consume data, but I think our patience levels are low. So I think we've got to really serve the data really efficiently.
And the time as well that we have available is drastically reduced really in the last 12 months, hasn't it?
I think, well, we've got so much more time because we're at home, but then we've got so much less time because there seems to be so many demands on our time at the minute. It's quite hard, isn't it? So that's all kind of leading up to then trust, the holy grail which we're all searching for. And I've tried to break this down because I was thinking about this more and more. And I think I've come up with 7 kind of ideas that will fit most brands, or that are relevant for most brands. So number 1, what a marketer can do to try and get visitors to trust their site is build social proof. So these are stories, recommendations, reviews, testimonials, all that kind of thing. If you know who your ideal customer is, then make sure that you've got reviews and testimonials from people who look like them, because that obviously will build trust, that they see that somebody else has trusted you before and you've delivered on that promise.
They see themselves with your product.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, we've all bought from those marketplace sites, but how many times do you choose to buy a product that's got less than 4 stars?
Yeah.
You don't. So you really, you know, whether you're on that marketplace or wherever, reviews are really strong. So it's a really good way of building trust. Number 2 is have a message that resonates. And again, this is about being different, and it's about knowing your customer and knowing the language that they use. I did a video on LinkedIn today about language and how language is so important. Using the terms that your customer will use. If you can mirror your customer, they're going to like you because you look like them, they look like you. So speak to them in their language and make sure that you're talking about solutions to what they want. Number 3 then is getting emotional. And I think it's a really strong to say that you really care about your customer rather than you're just trying to sell something. So I think we need to get emotional and show how passionate we are about making our customers happy and solving their problems. Number 4 is about being human. And I think we've seen loads of this last year. More and more personalities kind of behind brands being more visible on social. And I think we need, from being kind of trapped at home for the last 12 months, we need to see that humanity, and we need to see personalities, don't we? And showing that you care. And if you think about how personalities have come through on social media, like the Gymshark guys and Brewdog and people like that, it's just so much easier to trust a person than to trust a faceless company. Yeah. You know, I mean, we all had letters, didn't we, from the CEO of Tesco, you know, who asked us to change our behaviour during lockdown, and the CEO of Waitrose, or the CEO, you know, and it's just that being human that again really kind of builds trust. It doesn't matter how big or small the company is. What else? Number 5. It's something that again has worked really well is sharing your journey. And this has been, you know, Gymshark, Brewdog, people, these big brands of last year, even when they've failed at something and done something wrong, if they share, we've seen all that, what it looked like then, and how, I'm getting the terminology wrong, but you've seen lots of that on social, haven't you? How it was and how it is now. All these, yeah. So I think sharing the journey, people like to see that. Oh God, I cringe at the word authentic, but it shows you're real, doesn't it? And it shows that there's a real story behind brands. So I think,
and it shows that brands are trying to innovate as well for the best, for the better of their customers. Yeah,
and everyone can learn from people's mistakes. So I think it is really important to share your journey and tell your story. Number 6 is a big one, and that's communicating your ethics and values.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of that this year. So I think it's important to share what you care about and stand up for something. And then number 7 is about giving value and giving it freely. And I think, again, this builds so much trust, because if you share your expertise, not by saying I know everything, but here's how you do it, people will absolutely believe that you're the experts and you're the one for the job, because you've proved that you've got that knowledge, and you can do that as a personality, or you can do it from the brand, from the website. But yeah, share your expertise, give value, and give it freely, and then they'll know and they'll trust that you can do the job. So that's my 7. Do you want me to say them quickly again? Not the whole thing, but provide.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, provide social proof, provide a message that resonates, get emotional, be human. What was the next one? Share the journey, communicate and live by ethics and values. And then number 7, give value and give it freely. So that's kind of what I came up with on how you can really, really build trust in your brand.
Absolutely. And like you say, I think we've seen lots of examples over the last 12 months of companies that have done that really well and companies that have just done that really badly. I think we could all probably quote at least a couple from each of those areas.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. That's really...
Oh no, is it me that's frozen or is it you?
I think Tracy's frozen, so I'll take over while she comes back. So we're talking about digital now. So with the changes of all of our behaviours in the last 12 months, and particularly as we transact more in a digital space than ever before, how do you think companies can build that trust through digital experiences, Vanessa?
I think, like, as we said at the beginning, trust is about delivering on promises. And digitally, in its most basic sense, it means delivering the experience, the customer experience that is expected, isn't it? So if you think about it, so how did the customer find you? They've seen an ad somewhere and it's got a certain image and it's got a certain slogan or something with it. And so that first impression is really important. They see that and they'll click on it and come to your site. If you don't build the customer experience that's expected, you're going to lose people. And if you click on an ad and it goes to the company's homepage, but you don't recognize the ad, so it's, you know, a different image, different words, the journey's broken and you're not going to trust. You've kind of left room for doubt. So I think it's important that you give people very clearly and simply what they expect. So if you click on an ad that looks like that, the page that you land on should mirror that ad and then take people on the journey. And I think homepage, you know, if customers do come directly to your homepage, I think don't be subtle with your message, because we were saying it was so time poor now. Yeah. I think you've just got to say exactly what you do and how you do it and why you do it and be really clear. And you said, you know, the whole experience of the past 12 months, and we were saying it earlier, weren't we, about our expectations are for a clear experience, a clear and simple experience, but we haven't got the time. So it's kind of cut the fluff, get to the point, but also make sure that your page speeds, you know, we're not going to wait around anymore, are we? So it's giving a really clean, clear and simple experience. So cut the fluff, remove the grit, and give a really obvious and simple customer journey.
Yeah, people don't want to read between the lines. They just want to know exactly what you're offering and what's going to benefit them. You know, people haven't got the time for anything else. So yeah, that's exactly right. So looking ahead and building on the concepts that you've discussed, you've talked about the know me, like me, trust me, and then those 7 key pillars that you were talking about. How do you think trust can be improved in the future with developing technologies playing a part in that?
I think there's room for so we've seen this this kind of humanity, haven't we? We've seen we've seen that so you're saying that how in the future it's going to change. We've seen this humanity, we've seen people and brands building communities, and it's all happened socially, hasn't it, on social channels. Mm-hmm. So companies and brands haven't got control over that so much. So maybe in the future we'll see more of that being owned on their own websites, potentially. because there's very little security, especially for small brands. You never know when you might get kicked off Facebook or LinkedIn and things like that. So maybe in the future we'll see communities being built in more owned spaces. And then if I think about what hasn't worked virtually this last year, I think many marketers will breathe a sigh of relief that the big trade exhibitions have not taken place, and we've been able to kind of like move on digitally and transform there. And we haven't seen webinars and events like this are brilliant, and it's accessible to everyone. But brands do like that face-to-face interaction of exhibitions, and we haven't seen a really good answer to a virtual exhibition. I've been to a few, and they're really poor, and they don't represent brands very well. So I think there'll be interesting innovation ahead, I would hope, if exhibitions are going to continue. I think that'll be interesting to see how the digital exhibition become more of a digital experience rather than an event.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I think about the first event that we did back in May, you know, when we'd just gone into lockdown and it became a new thing. And now think about the platforms that are available and what's actually happening. It's really exciting to see how technology is evolving in that space. And we all want to be connected. We don't want to feel this disconnection, because we are having to be separate. Like how many of us would love to be, you know, in a room where we can actually socialize with a glass of wine at some point.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. I think we've got Tracy back. I think you you might want to take over, Trace.
Apologies. Yeah, just recap me where you were up to, Sarah. Were you discussing the future there?
Oh, we just talked about the future of technology. So I think we're moving on to the key takeaways.
Perfect. Okay. Have we covered off? I know that we wanted to talk around values. Have we covered off around authentic values?
We've not actually. No.
Okay,
I think maybe you can.
Let's get back into that then. So I know that so we've talked about this lots over the last, haven't we, Vanessa? And I know that it's one of our key trends at Mando for 2021 as well, is around this kind of value set, and brands identifying their value set, obviously aligning those with their customers, and like you've talked about before, so that the customer can see themselves and see their values within that business. How do you see that kind of contributing to trust and establishing and kind of building trust with customers?
I think again, like you said, it's that mirroring. It's we want to buy from companies that we believe in, and we expect as consumers that it is companies, it is brands that is going to make the change, because we don't, as consumers, we don't feel powerful enough. But it is up to companies to challenge their industries and to change their industries. So whether that's about the environment and climate change, whether it's about sustainability or diversity and inclusion was a big thing last year, which is brilliant. And also how you treat your staff. We saw different brands behaving rather differently. So all these kind of like values and ethics are really, really important to us. And we expect the brands to lead the change, and not to be changing now, but also to have a continuous, a plan for continuous improvement. And obviously I work in e-commerce now, which fulfillment, which has a huge carbon footprint. You know, all those packaging, all those packages, you know, and the road miles, etc. But that's the way we buy now. That's just the way it is. But it's up to us in that industry to clean that industry up, isn't it? So
absolutely, from the inside out.
And we've got this Lorax project. So Lorax, after the film about the trees. So we've got the Lorax project. So we are taking that seriously, and we expect to be carbon neutral by the end of next year. And then we'll be looking for ways to be carbon negative. But obviously our retailers, the people who use us, want to be more responsible, and their customers want to buy from responsible brands. So yeah, we're just expecting that industries clean themselves up. And I think if a company is inactive, then it's almost that they're complicit We demand action, don't we? So inactivity is not an option.
No, definitely not. I think it, particularly when it comes to those issues that you've mentioned, like sustainability, diversity and inclusion, doing nothing is not an option, is it? You're not setting yourself apart, then you're not leading the charge and being seen to lead the charge with your customers.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Absolutely. That's great, thank you. So do you have any particular examples of best practice? I know that you've mentioned Brewdog briefly, but maybe you can expand on that. And you mentioned Gymshark and things.
Yeah, well, if you think Brewdog, they did a brilliant thing by when the pandemic started. So first of all, they started making hand sanitizer for the NHS, didn't they? And they're still doing that. So, you know, yeah, they really kind of showed what their brand stood for. And then when the vaccine became available, they made their venues available as vaccination centres. So really standing up and standing out for their consumers, for their customers. So that was good. And then we saw Sainsbury's ad, didn't we, that caused an interesting Twitter reaction
at Christmas.
Because it showed a diverse family, and there were a few complaints, and a very unsavory Twitter exchange. But what happened then is all the other supermarkets stood up and stood shoulder to shoulder with Sainsbury's and say, no, we're calling you out. This is right. This is, if you don't want to be a customer of Sainsbury's, we don't want you to be a customer of us. And again, everyone was thinking, okay, where's Asda? Where's Waitrose? And if you didn't stand up, then you're complicit. So we need action, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, sharing those values with a brand that you looking to buy definitely builds that trust element. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, we've only got a few minutes left, so we'd just like you to get just to sum up a couple of takeaways. So what are the 3 key takeaways? I know that you did a summary previously of the 7 trust me elements, but just if you can just give us a recap of 3 key takeaways for everybody.
Okay, let's do one from know me, like me, trust me. We'll do one from each. So 1, know me, visibility. Create content that is educational. So what is fulfillment? That kind of thing, you know, whether it's text or video, because that will win you ranking on Google as not trying to sell but being educational. So that's number 1. You can do that this afternoon. Everyone can do that. Number 2 is like me, being compelling, and that is removing the grit and removing the fluff from your customer experience. Just keep it smooth, keep it simple, direct to the point in a language that your customer speaks, using words that they use. And then number 3, trust me, what we were saying, stand up and stand out for something different, be better. And I think, as you said, don't be scared of losing customers by standing up for what you believe in, because you will attract customers that share your values, and they will have a much stronger emotional connection with you, that they'll be much more loyal customers and more likely to keep coming back.
Definitely. So it's a point of differentiation, isn't it, where that will ultimately gain you customers in the long run.
I think so. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Sarah, any questions from those that are listening today?
Yeah, we do. We have a question for Vanessa. So when you've acquired these customers, how can they optimize the digital journeys to continue to build trust?
Ooh, right. Okay. So I think the first thing to do is, when you've made that decision online, then I think the customer needs to feel that they've made the right decision, even after it's happened. So I think thanking the customer and celebrating that purchase. I think if you can give them great service as well, but get the quote, get that testimonial, you being interested in hearing from your customer will create that emotional connection more and more. And if it's a long-term relationship that you're looking for, then get to know your customer. if you've got lots of customers that look similar, then you've got reference points. You should be able to, with new customers, understand what their problems are going to be before they do, because you've got all those reference points. So help them on that journey, and encourage feedback. You've got to listen to your customers, get to know them, listen to what they want for improvements, deliver those improvements, and then tell your customers about those improvements, and really get interaction going, which can be digital, and you need great CRM systems. It's all available now to do this. So yeah, just keep communicating, but back and forth communication, not just pushing messages out.
Yeah, I think it drills down to what you were saying before. Keep connected, keep getting to know your customer, and never think you know them. Keep engaging with them, because we're changing, they're changing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Back to you, Chase.
Perfect, thanks, Sarah. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. So just want to say a huge thanks to Vanessa for joining us today. Really, really insightful conversation. Apologies, I missed a few minutes of it there. But yeah, super interesting, and hopefully everyone will have some really firm takeaways to implement into their business from Monday. So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, and thanks to Sarah, and we will speak again soon. Thanks.